Success Mantra is a program which features people, successful individuals from various walks of life. They are less known heroes who believe in their dreams and have conviction to live their full potential. Idols, icons, innovators who care to live every moment on their own terms.
Welcome to another episode of Success Mantra, where we feature people living their life with a difference to their society, to their clients, and also creating a huge impact. Today we have Mr. Vikas Saxena with us, who's a HR consultant, and he is also the CEO of Professional Expertise Group. He consults on HR and other business aspects with multinational companies. Welcome, Vikas. Welcome to the show Success Mantra.
Thank you very much, Sonali. I'm honored.
It's a pleasure to have you here, a fellow colleague in the industry who's always kind of up and about in terms of making a difference to his clients. So tell us a little bit about your corporate journey in terms of, like you have been HR head of so many companies and you've kind of really reconfigured the HR fraternity, I must say. So tell us a little bit about your journey and also how it has been running your own show.
Thank you. See, I began my journey in my career as a lawyer. And then I came over to the IT industry. I was earlier in sales and marketing, and then I came over to HR. I always believed that an HR manager is, of course, a line manager, and a line manager is also an HR manager. Well, I logged in 30 years of experience in the corporates, which included my sales and marketing tenure. And when I was in HR, I occupied apex positions. And after my stint in the corporates, I decided to set up my consulting firm because I had the fire in me to become an entrepreneur and to do some consulting work in HR, in management, capability building, training, mentoring, and in corporate legal. And the crowning part of it was when I set up my consulting firm, Professional Expertise Group, some 11 years ago.
Wow.
And that is after my stint in the corporates of 30 years.
Beautiful.
And that's where I am. I consider myself to be a one-man army, and I'm very happy with what I do, and I do whatever makes me happy about.
Beautiful. So it's always interesting to understand that there are experts who transition from their corporate career to starting entrepreneurship venture. So how did it come across to you to be an entrepreneur and to start something of this league?
Good question. You see, when I was working in the corporates, the organizations where all I worked were pretty good. I liked a lot of things. But when you have an agenda in mind and you feel that is right, you feel that you are actually doing with one hand tied behind your back. And when you want to do something, there are myriads of things, which stop you from doing a lot of things. Maybe the corporate policies, maybe whatever the culture of the company is all about. And it is good for the organization, but then the organization also has its constraints and restraints. I didn't want to fetter myself like that. And I always felt that I would do well, someday or the other, to give shape to what I have always believed to be right.
Right.
And when I decided to become an entrepreneur, it was my innate enterprising spirit. And I felt, that when I set it up, I'm going to give shape to whatever I felt would be right in my profession. See, I have always believed, in what Charles Handy had written in his book, how to win customers,
Right.
be a loyal servant of your company,
Mhm.
be a friend of your customers, and be an ambassador of your profession, unquote. And that is something which inspired me throughout. When I set up my consulting firm,
Mhm.
I felt the best thing that I would do is to do the three things which I've always been advocating all along my career. One is I have to protect my image and my credibility.
Sure.
Second, I have to protect my revenue interests.
Mhm.
Third, I have to protect my legal interests.
Sure.
Now, these three things are very important for an entrepreneur. You see, there is a lot of euphoria that comes in the minds of an entrepreneur. Euphoria has to be replaced by excitement. And I was excited. I had a lot of professional assistance to a lot of startups. And I find that they throw caution to the winds and they end up in very piquant allow all these things to happen. I have always under promised and over delivered. And that has given me, tremendous amount of delight that I am doing what I firmly believe in and something which I want to practice and which I've always believed. So I perceive myself to be a practitioner of whatever I do. Yes, it is not a very easy task sometimes, but then, life is not a bed of roses. It has to be handled.
Absolutely. It's really wonderful to see with the kind of passion that you serve your clients and the perspective that you have. So, because you have had a 30-year career in corporates and thereafter you started something so novel. Tell us a little bit about this professional expertise group and how you operate.
Well, professional expertise group, let me tell you, I conceived the name professional expertise group. Sonali, I time and again, I come across, and I know I will come across, like most of us, people who claim to be professionals.
Right.
Now, does it mean that a person is a professional because he or she has just got a professional qualification and is working in a senior position, or he is doing that particular job? I wanted to walk that extra mile, and I have, to a very great extent, succeeded in doing so. I'll tell you what is it. I find, when people say he's done it very professionally. So, what is it that he has done professionally? He has done that thing, but there is something that is lacking in that professionalism or in being a professional. There is a human touch or there's a humane touch. You know, I find a lot of people, even in my own fraternity, with due regards to them, when they have to take decisions, they feel, no, well, we are going to go by the rule book. Good, you should. Who said that you should not? But then that factor of empathy is often missing. You're not able to get your point across. You are not able to get the other guy, you're not able to have a buy in. The guy feels, hey, the rule said so, but have you tried to explain that as to why there? Rules are meant to be adhered to, all right. Sometimes rules are also required to be reviewed.
Right.
And when a professional, you know, goes about trying to reach out, there should always be an effort to reach out to the guys whom you serve.
Mhm.
You see, when I was working in the corporates, I always believed that it is the internal customer which is more important.
Absolutely.
If the internal customer is happy, the external customer will always be.
True.
You cannot say, I'm going to have a customer satisfaction survey. The word satisfaction means that you are coming to terms with mediocrity. Satisfaction. When we have a performance appraisal, where the parameters are outstanding, very good, good, satisfaction, I'm satisfied, average, and so on and so forth. So we are taking that satisfaction. Can't we replace it with client delight?
Absolutely.
Can't we replace it with employee delight?
Mhm.
We always like to find out, do an employee satisfaction survey. They're satisfied, fine. Everything is fine. We come out with statistics. If 70% of the employees said this, 80% said this, and sometimes, well, I have no hesitation in saying, in certain companies, not in the companies where I worked, but as a consultant I have come across, the data is even fudged. That's not right. A professional is a person who epitomizes integrity, number one. There can be no compromises on that. Professional and personal integrity, right? It can be supported by a lot of other virtues, a lot of attributes, but integrity is non-negotiable. We say the person is efficient. Efficiency is like honesty. You have to be efficient. But more than important than being efficient is a person who is he effective? That is very important. And in professional expertise group, I can tell you one thing. I've always endeavored to walk the talk. Even when I interact with my prospects and clients, I do not set unreasonably high expectations, but they look upon me and I look upon them as two sides of the same coin. And that is a very important thing because it is that human touch that really makes a difference. That is why if you see, somebody asked me, an overseas client asked me, why, you are in Bangalore and Bangalore is known for bars. So you have kept your name PEG, PEG. I said, well, I'm intoxicated, not with liquor, but with an energy of a different kind. He said, oh, that's why. I said, yeah, I had to keep a catchy name. And expertise is something that, uh, we cannot say that overnight that I've studied this, I've done this, I've become an expert. We learn through our mistakes, we learn through our success stories. We learn from other people's mistakes, we learn from other successes, from other people's successes. So one has really got to be open-minded. So this is what has made me give shape to my consulting firm, Professional Expertise Group.
Beautiful. Very well
Thank
said.
you.
With the qualification alone, you cannot call yourself an expert. So it requires, complete honing every single day and also
Absolutely.
the 10,000 hours that you spend on this, right? So all of it put together, experience and expertise, that's what you bring to the table when it comes to your clients.
Precisely.
Heartening to see. And Vikas, you have had a beautiful journey. You're running this beautiful organization where you serve your customers with total integrity and in terms of all the experts that you bring along with you to the table. What in your mind is success for a professional? Let's say we are talking about these experts and professionals. How would you define success to these as well as to yourself?
Fine. You see, success means sometimes the same thing for everybody, and success means something different to most of us. Says success is an accomplishment, an achievement, but it is also the denouement of, in my reckoning, four factors plus one, which I'd like to talk to you about. Which are these four factors? Success is a result of passion, perseverance, prudence, and patience. Passion, perseverance, prudence, and patience, backed by yet another P, that is prayer. You see, success is different from attaining something by fluke or by chance or by somebody else's effort. It is not your success, right? We are not a product of our circumstances, as we are a product of our decisions, as someone said. And when we conceive something, yes, this is an objective that we have to achieve, and we put in all our 100% into it, with all the passion, with all the perseverance, with all the prudence, we carefully plan, as to how to go about doing it, and have patience. Rome was not built in a day. It takes a child 9 months to be born, right? And then, when you put in all these things, more often than not, you will meet with success. Yes, there are many occasions where a person is not successful despite having put all these things. Then at that point in time, we should have the humility to acknowledge that somewhere along the line, we were wanting. We were wanting somewhere along the line. The Japanese are never content with having achieved something. I had the chance to work with them in Japan and in India. And they have got a concept known as Kaizen, constant self improvement. And no wonder you see that they are very successful in most of the things that they do. And that has really inspired me, made me feel, why should I rest on my laurels? After all, success is an unending journey. It's a journey, it's not a destination, as I always heard many successful people tell me that. So if it is a journey and if it is a highway, I'm bound to meet a lot of situations which will have their ups and downs. The road will be very difficult, but then I have to begin with the end in mind, with the result. I have to be absolutely, focused on what I have to achieve. So this is what it is. So success is a result of the 4 plus 1P, and that 1P is prayer. You see, that is very important. It's very important for me. I have seen, many times in my life, in fact, somewhere along the line, I felt that, when you put in a lot of things and it is not backed by prayer, things don't work.
Very deep. Yeah, totally reckon with this, especially in these pandemic times where prayer
Sure.
is one of the most important aspects which make us feel complete, which make us feel that, like we are taken care of and we are headed towards the right things in life, right? In spite of so much of commotion and chaos because of what COVID has caused the entire world, right? So very interesting, like you said, that success is a combination of four things: passion, perseverance, prudence, and patience. And of course, it has to be with a lot of prayers, which go in a day-to-day basis. So, because have you kind of practice these on a regular basis as behaviors, as values, which has helped you win your successes in life?
Yes, I have. I don't think I attained success anytime in my professional endeavors with the absence of any one of these. I can tell you that with all the force at my command. When I take up something, I'm very passionate about it. Let me tell you, I mean, I have my, uh, my own inadequacies and my own strengths like any individual. Something, when I hear people telling me, I'm absolutely befuddled as to why do they say that. Sometime back somebody told me, something, I don't want to be, I don't want any customer to get back to me or to contact me at 10 o'clock in the night or 12 o'clock in the night or after 6 o'clock in the night. It's my personal life. Very good. Of course, you should have your personal life. You know, a doctor is a person who has to be ready to serve the patient 24 bar 7 if he's a true medical professional, right? And let me tell you, believe it or not, I think for a professional, for an HR professional, he is or she is a therapist. Now, why this 24 bar 7? You see, I have got some of my overseas clients. They do know that, the earth is not flat. It is going to be midnight here in India. They shouldn't call. But when they have to experience some very challenging situation, right, in which they want a solution then and there, if I don't become accessible, I am not a professional. For a professional, he should take up a challenge without demur, without delay. He should be amenable, accessible, and approachable, and amiable too. Yes, I'm not saying that a person can get in touch with me at any point in time. It may suggest that. No. But if I've been able to convince my prospect or my client, hey, if you got a problem, come back to me anytime. More sometimes, many people say you can contact me anytime, right? Do they mean what they say? Do they say what they mean? There lies a rub. When it happens, that's where the cookie crumbles.
Very true.
You see, so when you, I mean, I'm in such a profession, like many HR professionals. I'm not saying that, they have to do whatever I say. Well, this is a code of conduct for myself, and I'm very happy at doing it. I have never ever objected to anybody. I've never ever told a prospective client, look here, you can contact me. This is a sure, these are my timings. Yes, you can contact me. But should you face a problem, I'm there. When we ask for roadside assistance, it says 24 by 7.
Right.
You've got a flat tire or your car is broken down. You want somebody to be made to be available. You can't say, well, the office opens at 9 o'clock. I know many people do that. That's fine. But here I am an entrepreneur. I'm running my own organization. I will define my own rules. I'm
You
happy in doing so.
Right. Yeah. So this actually, you know what, Vikas, it reminds me of my corporate days. In fact, when people used to say that making yourself available after the office hours was like really a disaster, because people will call you and they have all kind of challenges that they want you to support them on, and that's something which has really helped me not only progress in my career but also like thereafter take up entrepreneurship and grow with time. I think very well said in terms of managing professional behavior with a commitment to the clients, that they can rely on you when it comes to their emergencies.
Absolutely.
That's something, as a customer, as a client ourselves, that's what we are looking for. Then why can't we extend that to them, right?
Sure.
However, there's a small rider to it, because as like every person has a personal side and a professional side, and you need to balance your entire work life versus your personal life. So how do you achieve that balance when it comes to commitment on both sides?
See, I'll tell you, I do understand, the point that you are making. I would like to tell you something that which does not mean to say. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I was on a family vacation, and I got a call from a prospect of mine, not a client. Okay, people tend to be more, their client and all that. And this prospect of mine, a very good friend, he became later on. He had some queries and which were not something that somebody would have faced. And he was answerable to his clients. It was about 1:25 a.m. I was on a vacation, and he had to get back to his clients something within half an hour. He didn't know where to turn to, and he was in Denmark. He is in Denmark rather. And when he called me up, I remember I did not tell my folks about it because they were fast asleep. And when I answered the call, I never put off my phone. I only put off my phone only in three places, and that too for some time. If it's a petrol pump, if it is a hospital, or where there is some emergency, or if I am, God forbid, if I have to go there now and again, if it is a cemetery or a cremation ground, that's not the time to answer calls. But I don't put off my phone, I put it in a silent mode. I don't switch it off, right? So I can return the calls. Now, this gentleman was, very reluctant to talk to me, and because he called me at that time, I felt that, you know, I wanted to put myself in his shoes. And the only way that you can put yourself in somebody else's shoes is to take off your own shoes. So when he asked me all those questions, and I answered most of these to his satisfaction, some of these I couldn't, and I told him so, he was very happy. When I related this to a fellow professional, when I came back that I got a call, he made fun of me. He said, yeah, something is wrong with you. You should have told him this is not the time to call. I said, that was the time for him. He said, what if he doesn't give you the business? I said, forget about that. He doesn't give me the business, that's a different thing. I don't always do that. I must get this business, so I must do that. If he has asked me, that means he has some confidence in me. Do you want to know something, Sonali? I did not get that business. It didn't hurt me. I didn't do that with that expectation. That doesn't make me a saint or an evangelist. That makes me a professional. I'm not a saint and I'm not an evangelist. I can't be one. But I can just be a simple practitioner. So just my friend asked me, Kya hua? Did you get that business? I said, no. He said, what did you get? I said, I got goodwill. He said, why? I said, goodwill, as Marshall Fields has said, is a single and important asset which competition cannot undersell or destroy. He said, who's your competitor? I said, he told me, and he got back to me. He said, I'm sorry, Mr. Saxena, I cannot give you that business. I said, it's okay. He said, I'm sorry I disturbed you. I said, no, you shouldn't feel sorry about it at all. A year later, I got a call from him asking me to work for a very big business plan. Do you know something? His competitors were able to make a fool out of him, and he realized that. I got the business. I got his goodwill. He swears by me. I'm very happy. I have to live up to his expectations, and the very fact that I have to live up to my expectations, because I've set a standard for myself, makes me feel all the more delighted. You see, if I will go in a popularity contest, I will fail. I don't want to be in a popularity contest. I want to have my own esteem, and self-esteem is different from ego. And that's what I believe in. I know it's very difficult sometimes, but then, as I said at the outset, life is not a bed of roses. Many things, you will come across which are very difficult to be handled. Sometimes, we feel that where are we landed ourselves into? But I have never cursed myself and never cursed anybody. Why the hell did he put me into that? I've been conned also, but I have not taken my revenge, but I've hit back with all the ferocity within the ambit of law and within the ambit of professionalism and within the ambit of ethics. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, so it's really interesting that your personal image and how you look upon yourself as a professional is more important than, how people perceive you or whether they give you the business or not. Because end of the day, you have to live with yourself, and life is not like a 2020 match. It's like a
Oh,
test
sure.
that you have to keep playing and facing yourself. So beautiful. And if you see in your experience, you finally got a goodwill, you got the business, and of course, a great relationship to kind of continue in terms of your journey. So that's what is the takeaway, my takeaway rather, from this example that you just.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So, Vikas, you have done such great things, and of course, worked in beautiful, like all great clients and stuff. What has been the greatest achievement in your career and personal life, if you had to look back and cherish that?
Well, honestly, I would tell you the greatest achievement in my life, because there have been, uh, you know, in the life of any individual, there are a litany of successes and a litany of failures. Well, same is the case with me. The biggest success of my life, which when I look back, is being when I realized my entrepreneurial dream of setting up my own enterprise.
Mhm.
That has been, one single biggest achievement. I'll tell you, there's a reason for that.
Mhm.
It's not that I felt shackled working anywhere. No, but I felt, when I have to work for someone, when I have to work for an organization, I will have a certain role. And if I want to do any role taking beyond my role, I will find it difficult to do so,
Sure.
because I could be accused, not out of, not that I'm afraid of, I could be accused, I'm going beyond. But, going beyond the call of duty has been something which I felt, where will I get it? Where can I make it happen? Now, why this call of going beyond your duty? When you become an entrepreneur, you have to handle everything yourself.
True.
And you have to be self reliant, and you learn a lot of things. And whatever has been the learning that you have accumulated, one big learning is to look, to introspect, and to find out where things are going right and where things are going wrong. I've never felt, okay, this is somebody else's job. I felt it is my job. When I was the global head of HR, I remember having gone to a seminar when somebody said, to me, well, that's not my job. How impersonal can a person be and claim to be a professional? I'll give you one very small, absurd instance, you might call it. A story fascinated me about a conflict situation in which an Indian army unit was had to be put up with. There were no infantry guys, there were no armored guys, there were no artillery guys, and there were a group of dhobis and sepoys who were not active, so in active combat duty. Do you know something? They put up such a stiff resistance that the enemy fled. They could have gone back and said, that's not our job. Why didn't you guys send somebody there? They did radio for assistance, but they were trained. More important than the physical training that they got was the passion in their mind. You can say, it may be an instinct of self preservation or whatever it is, that's not bad. But they decided, hey, we were trained once upon a time, now we are going to do it, come hell or high water. And they did it. I drew a cue from that, and I said, If this is what it is, can make a small army unit achieve success, why the hell can't this hold water in other environments? You see, when we are going on a road and we meet with an accident, and then somebody comes and renders us, when we don't get any help, we say, people didn't stand by us. They didn't help us. They could have done this, they could have done that. Anybody could have said, well, I have to go to my office. Why the hell should I come and help you out? If a doctor was there, he said, I think, they should call the cops, they should call it for an ambulance. Yes, all those things are fine. But somebody goes beyond the call of duty, feels, okay, I'll stop and I'll give first aid. I'll do this. Why can't we think of doing that? Are we doing somebody a favor? I don't think so. I don't think so. So, it is something that when you do role taking, and that is what I imagine, I mean, I believe very firmly that this is a value system for yourself. Today, I'm talking about it because, the situation so demands that I should talk about it. I wouldn't like to give it any publicity because I'm not a preacher. I'm a practitioner. So I evaluate myself in the light of these parameters. And when somebody doesn't do it, I don't object because I don't go around telling him, you should do this, you should do that. Each of us are mature to have our do's and don'ts. But what gives me pleasure, solace, I do it. If somebody wants to learn from it, fine. I also learn a lot from a lot of other people's experiences because I'm open. And I realize, when I make mistakes, I do understand that I made a mistake. So that's how it is.
Wow, very well said. That it's all about how you really stand by others when they need it, because we only see that, okay, I needed XYZ kind of a support and I didn't have anybody. But how many times do we really kind of reach out to others and extend our help whenever it's required? So that's something which is very critical. And of course, entrepreneurship, like you said, that it's been your greatest achievement. I completely feel it that, especially for creative people, when they are boxed in a role and they are told, okay, this is your periphery and this is where you need to be. Beyond this, your role and responsibility is not required. You feel very claustrophobic at some point in time in growing
Yes.
as a professional, right? And you wish that, okay, if only I could do this as well, because it all comes naturally when you have spent so many years in a corporate environment, right? Because you're constantly learning from others and also, contributing to the environment. Beautiful. So, has there been any role model in terms of coming to HR or starting on your own, setting up your own organization? Who has been a role model who has inspired you to take up these various aspects when you were crossing them?
See, okay. So, Nali, it's a very dear question. I mean, I like this question. But all that I want to tell you, there have been role models. Or you want to know only one role model, or you want to know three role models? Should I try to tell you?
Whatever you prefer, we are.
Okay. The biggest role model for me has been a person who was never in the corporate world, and whose teachings have been highly and very intentionally inspirational, and the person led by an example, though of course in a totally different domain. He was a saint, and that is Swami Vivekananda.
I think he's a role model for many people and
For many.
irrespective
Right.
of gender.
Right. Absolutely. So that is if the role model as far as my life is concerned. And, I have been a fan of his ever since my kid old days. I had to memorize a lot of his speeches, which I still remember. People remember nursery rhymes. I remember nursery rhymes too, but I remember all the speeches I memorized about him and I understood. And he was one big role model. I would say the biggest role model. Now, when it comes to uh, in the professional, in the legal domain, which I was a lawyer, because I was a lawyer, actually read, was Nani Palkhiwala. And in my profession, one person who has been my role model, and I would say so. I would say he's also in my profession, but something from whom I learned, from about whom I read, and about whom I often, more often than not, read, has been a person, certainly not in the corporate world, he's again not in the corporate world, has been General George Patton, who was a military commander of the American forces during World War II. He gave the Germans a very difficult time. And when I saw his movie Patton, I don't want to repeat the lines which he said at the outset. If you see the I'll repeat the words. The man had a lot of fire in his belly. By an example, and that indiscretion was highly exaggerated by the folks around him. Occupied very senior positions, but people fail to emulate him in that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was talking to you about General George Patton. He has been a source of inspiration. My role model, one of the role models that I like to emulate. You got it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it was Vivekanand, Palkiwala, and Patton.
Awesome. Awesome. Amazing choice of role models, I would say. Vikas, like you have had this, you have been a trailblazer and you have had consistent successes. Has there ever been a failure which you have encountered in your life? And if you have had, then how have you dealt with them?
Yes, of course, I've encountered many failures, but one failure that is etched in my mind was not so much in my professional domain, it was when I was a student. Uh, I had often dreamt of, entering into the field of international relations, and I had applied for admission several years ago when I was a student. I was about to complete my bachelor's. I applied for admission for my master's in School of International Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and it was emergency time that time in the country, and the university was very strict, and they did set a date for me to take my test, and I was in between my exams in the university in Kanpur. And the date that they had determined was a date between two of my examination dates. And I I went there, and when they learned that I was still in the process of appearing for my exams, will you be able to give us, let us know what your result is going to be by a particular date, because the session is going to start? I said yes, I think I should be able to do so. And I rushed back to Kanpur. I was born and brought up there, and I decided to go for admission in Delhi. And I felt that I had come very, very close to achieving what I wanted in life at that point in time. And I got selected in the test, in the interview. And I was the only one in that particular batch who got selected. So that gave me a tremendous amount of elation. When I came back, I appeared in the exams, and there was some agitation in my city, and the examination were postponed, the declaration of results was postponed, and when the results were declared, it was the last date had already lapsed. I took my result, I didn't get my mark sheet, I took a certificate from the registrar of my university that I had passed, and I rushed to Delhi. I was optimistic, I was rather confident that they would still factor that. And they said, no, we cannot give you that seat, even though you were the only one selected in the batch. Because, that point in time, the rules were being very strictly followed. I didn't have all those political connections, which could help me. I felt, pretty unhappy. I felt, that I'd failed uh, in realizing my dream, my ambition at that point in time, because that is something, that is one domain that I really wanted to enter. And I had to come back to Kanpur to appear to attend to my other work commitments. And I, made all kinds of representations there, but it was of no avail. I came back, yes, I was disappointed, but I had to overcome that. I felt, that on one hand, I imagined myself to be a fighter. So am I going to cave into this? No. So, a lot of my friends and well said, why don't you try it the second time? I said, yes, I can, but I wouldn't like to waste a year, so I'll do something else, which I did. And that is etched in my mind, that I made me feel that, certain things, you are able to do, and something goes against you. It doesn't mean that there's some inadequacy necessarily in you. It is a result of a certain mix of certain situations which are beyond your control. So you have to accept it. I reconciled myself to it. It was not like reconciling myself to defeat, because I knew that I was meant for something better. And then the journey began
Sure.
on a
So,
different plate, of course.
right. Now, when you look back, Vikas, do you really see why this had to happen, or would it have been better if you went into a different profession, or you're happy with what you pursued?
See, well, I mean, one has to overcome the state of regret, you see, because then one will start walling in self pity, and will start, I mean, if one is really positive minded, one should, think beyond. If it was not something, which I could achieve, doesn't make me a failure.
Mhm.
Because failure, if you read that poem, Don't Quit, it says success is failure turned inside out.
True.
So, but there were lessons to learn from this. The lessons to learn from this was not that, oh, well, next time you should do this, you should do that. The lesson to learn from this was that, don't lose heart and hope. That was a plan A, you should have a plan B in place. I know many people, you know become very fall on. They become, this they lose, there's so much amount of self confidence in themselves, and then they rue that particular day that they were even born, and so on and so forth. I didn't allow any of those negative forces to get the better of me. And I decided, when I studied law, I said, look here, I think this is a great domain to be in. And I mean, life had to move on. Don't get stuck up with something, you see? Because it is not, as you must have heard that when you come across a big situation, it is not the end of the road, it is the bend of the road.
Yeah.
It's the bend in the road.
Right.
And you
Right.
have to traverse that highway. You have no choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like when I look back, and there was a time that the only thing I knew that I wanted in life was to uh, play for India, right? So I used to play badminton.
Great.
And then thereafter, such turns and bends happened that I landed up where I am today. And when I look back, I say that it's actually turned out to be so good that, like I have been able to take the values of a sports person
For
into a
sure.
professional world, right? So
Very true.
that's
Very true.
given me a huge strength in terms of traversing my path. And also, even today, I always say I am who I am because I've been a sports person. So whether I have been a national champion or not doesn't matter. The very fact that I've played, that itself has inculcated so many values,
For sure.
sports person carry. So very well said, and it was awesome to have you on this show, and all that you
My
shared
pleasure.
was absolutely fabulous, because it's going to be a great, learnings for people who are in corporates, people who are looking forward to get into the industry and are in academia currently, like mastering their skills. What is your message or mantra that you would like to leave our audience with?
Well, I'm so flattered, when somebody asks me, what is your message or mantra? Well, okay. Suffice it to say, one, the first thing that I would like to say, a person should not compromise on 4 or 5 things in life.
Mhm.
One is the value system. B is the person's own health. If you are physically, mentally fit, you are not, you don't have to depend on anybody. It's a great thing to be. Third is your career. Be very focused on your career. Fourth is your fiscal discipline, your personal financial discipline. Don't spend more than what you earn, because a person who spends more than what he earns suffers reproach and faces distress. Next thing is keep your relationships in place. There should, your networking, your relationships make a lot of difference. Be very sincere in that. Next is your self development. Keep on enriching yourself. Be very open to learning. In Teresa's word, follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought, unquote. That's very important. And when you become an entrepreneur, or even if you're working in an organization, wherever you are, take up ownership. If you have people working for you, or you have anybody, you take up ownership, take the lead. You don't have to be a boss. You have to be a leader. First, lead yourself. And that's very important. And try to relate with people, try to relate with your customers. You may not agree with them, right? You can have different views, but don't develop differences for nut's sake. Be very resilient. Keep your equilibrium in control. There will be situations, because where you will meet with situations which are not there in your control. Accept it, right? You don't have to agonize somebody. You don't have to agonize yourself. Keep your equanimity in very much in place. You have to be resilient. very, very resilient, because there are tough times that we are all passing through, and times will still get tougher. Competition will always be there. You can't change that. It's great. It gives you a different feeling of elation. It gives you a different feeling altogether when you achieve victorious. It gives you a message to yourself, I could do it. Last but not the least, I would urge, one my message to everybody is, and I do it in the course of my mentoring and training sessions with people, and it has brought about a phenomenal change. And because this is a forum like this, I'm sure it will go down to a lot of people. Keep on reading three or four things. Time and again, you may mug them up. One is Desiderata. Do a Google search. If I would say, I would call it a doctrine, my own doctrine of practical idealism. Desiderata is a wonderful thing. Second is, one can do a Google search and get that poem, Don't Quit. The third one is Thinketh. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. Right? There is another thing that a person must try to do is be pretty well organized with yourself. Just be self-organized, because nothing like, I don't think there's anything like time management. It's all nonsense. You have to first manage yourself. How can you manage time? Time and tide wait for nobody. If you manage yourself, you can do it. So you have to be personally very organized, highly well organized. Be very systematic in whatever you do. And always draw up contingency plans. I learned from a lot of my own failures in life. There was no contingency plan. I would be looking in askance. Why look in askance? Then I had to change. And, one should always do introspection, and not think that, that, okay, whatever I've done is the best that I could do. Never be complacent. Never, ever be complacent. Never rest on your laurels. In fact, that should spur you on to do something more, to do something better. And attitude of gratitude is very important. Very, very important. And it should be genuine. This is my mantra to people. This is my message to anybody, everybody, myself, anybody.
Wow, that was awesome, Vikas.
Thank you.
And, like the last part was literally like getting the Vivekananda's words into action and a lot of motivation to the people who would follow this. And of course, like in terms of building a career, valuing your time and managing self, and of course, like you said, the fiscal management and how you're going to manage your personal life versus your finances, spend less than you earn and stuff like that, which is definitely going to help all our listeners and audience in
Thank you.
terms of guiding themselves to a better life in future. So thanks
Thank
so
you.
much for being on the show and sharing your journey of life and also your message and your mantras, which people can use in terms of finding victory in life.
Thank you very much, Sonali. Thanks a lot. It's been a
Thanks.
pleasure talking to you. Thank you. Thank you. All the best.